what's happening, guys? Tim Lloyd, Jeff Hobbs back with another 0 hour. Jeff, it's been a minute. Seems like it's been a good while since we recorded an episode. We had about, I guess, about a month and a half in between events as we're getting ready to gear up for a big Aries 16 card. It's going down, at this point, it's going down this Saturday. By the time you see this thing, we're right under a week out. Jeff, we're here to break down the amateur portion of the card. Of course, we will get into details with the pros. Wednesday, we'll record with our guy, Cody Safkic. He's going to come on. We'll have odds by then, kind of run through the pros in depth. But for today, we got the amateurs.
Yeah, it's been a while, man, but our buddy Kyle Mays has been keeping things on track for us with his interviews with fighters leading up to this card. So thank you, Kyle, for keeping the in-between, keeping the seats warm for us. But yeah, it's going to be a big card, Tim, and I'm ready to go, man. I wish we could load up the trailer right now and head to Chattanooga, because I am ready, as well as a lot of other people by the looks of fightertix.com and the paper ticket reports we've been getting. It sounds like a lot of people are ready for this show. So, but let's jump into it, man. This Saturday night, we are going to start the night with a BJJ bout, 1 6-minute round. We're going to have Karis Farragut out of Rockfield, Illinois, against Jazzy Sargent, both purple belts. Jazzy is out of Agogi Combatives, right out of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. A little bit of a late ad on this card, but this thing has grown to like epic proportions at this point. We got so many fights, but we looked over it at one point to kind of attempt to maybe trim the fat. There just wasn't like much to trim, so not a bad problem to have. We'll open up, incredibly enough, with Jazzy Sargent, who's got a great following there in Chattanooga, trains with Agogi Combatives there locally. As you mentioned, a purple belt. We saw her in the cage. I guess it was last fall for MMA. So hopefully she'll be back to the MMA gloves before too long. But this time she'll be taking on Forget from Illinois. She's with Black Flag BJJ, as well as Pedigo Submissions, who we're familiar with them. Of course, Samantha Buttery on the card, also a part of that stable. Josh Maynard and the like. So I'm sure that she will come ready to rock and roll, ready to put on a show. And, she seems to be, a straight grappler from what we can gather. I don't think that she does MMA. So this is just, right up her alley. And, Jazzy will have a large following in the house. It kind of ensures you that we're going to have an early arriving crowd. You don't worry about, the early prelims being in front of an empty house, because so many of these early prelim people still have large contingencies coming,
Yeah, absolutely. Doing research, looking back, it looks like Karis is definitely a practitioner, doesn't probably moonlight a lot doing anything else but this. This is her wheelhouse. But Jazzy is a spark plug, man. She's like you said, she's going to have a huge following. The crowd's going to be there. I checked her ticket sales today, and it doesn't matter that it's not an MMA fight. They are still coming out to support her. Jazzy is going to, I think, really benefit with that strength and being heavy in this fight, trying to keep things close, not giving too much space. But I think this is going to be Jazzy's purple belt just like Karis, but I think Jazzy's going to employ maybe more of a wrestling kind of attack, so to speak. So I think this is going to be a nice little chess match, and it's going to be a great way to start the show, because like you said, usually sometimes you got late arriving crowds kind of rolling in, but right from the get-go, we're going to name off 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, 4 fights right off the rip that we know have sold. And so this is going to be definitely reason to get there early. Don't hesitate. GA is it's first come, first serve, so you better get there quick if you want a good seat. But this is a great one. We always start off our cards great, Tim, I think, with kind of some of these sleepers. I would say this is a sleeper, but it's a really nice pop to start the show.
Yeah, I agree. And, speaking of, the crowd, we'll touch base on that real quick. We sold out the Chattanooga Convention Center as of about 2 weeks ago. And we were maybe just as surprised as everyone else, to tell you the truth. But, our first time in this venue. It's right in the middle of downtown. Beautiful venue. Just very, very nice. Great location down there in downtown Chattanooga. and so we were happy to move over there and into a much nicer venue. But man, the demand for tickets on this thing it even shocked us, and so we sold out of tickets about 2 weeks ago. We ended up opening up the other hall next door to kind of double up our capacity so we could fit more people in there. And so, as you mentioned, general admission will be a bit of a bit of a bit of a zoo. So I would get there earlier. Make sure you claim your spot. Get up as close as you can there because it's going to be a packed house for sure. Before we get on this next one, though, Jeff, real quick, I know the Spectation Sports is where you can watch the pay per view. If you're not able to make it in person, we expect to have a great broadcast on Spectation Sports as always. So make sure you check them out and get the pay per view this Saturday night. Also, shout out before we move on, before I forget, our guys at Smoky Mountain CBD. They will be in the house, of course. The presenting sponsor here for the 0 Hour and hooking up our VIPs with that great swag. You can check them out at SmokyMountainCBD.com. I look forward to seeing them because that means I get myself a little goodie bag, and that keeps me and Mrs. Loy happy for like a month at a time. So let's go on. Let's get to this next one. We got only the one grappling. Only got one Muay Thai. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We always like to sprinkle in some BJJ and Muay Thai, and this show was no different. Just a little less of it this time because we had so many MMA fights to book. But yeah, Muay Thai action, 170 pounds. We're going to see Logan Metters from Lawrenceburg Combat Club. Lawrenceburg Combat Club will be in the house during this event, but he is taking on local militia MMA fighter Broderick Kelsey. So Metters versus Kelsey, Tim.
Yeah, it's like Kelsey's had a bit of a revolving door of opponents, and that kind of carries over from even his last fight in Chattanooga. Originally had an opponent that no showed weigh-ins. We were able to scramble up a late replacement, and Broderick just rolled with the punches, man, and looked great in his debut. It went 3 hard-fought rounds, got a decision win, fairly clear-cut decision win, I thought. And representing Tom Galicchio's Militia MMA, the other major gym there in Chattanooga area. He's going to take on Logan Metters. Metters is like the third opponent that he's had this time too. I don't know what it is about Kelsey. We really struggle to keep an opponent in there with him, but Logan Metters' teammate Jeff Jankowski on the card already. We'll talk about that shortly. Logan has fought MMA. I want to say he is like 2-2, somewhere along those lines in MMA. So even though it is his first time doing Muay Thai, he has got more cage experience technically than Broderick Kelsey. So props to both these guys for jumping in short notice. And Kelsey's a very long, tall guy at 170. That's the one kind of advantage that I see him having that will maybe kind of counteract the experience that Metters brings.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those deals. Like you said, this card has built and built and built. And Jeff Jankowski from Lawrenceburg Combat Club. I mean, he has been a marketing guru here. Getting the community and social media on fire for this bout. And I think when this opening happened, I just have to imagine Logan was like, I've got to get on this card with you, man. I've got to be a part of this show. So I think it was pretty easy for him to say yes because how do you not want to be a part of this, right now? So kudos to Logan Metters because, again, like you said, Broderick Kelsey has been here since the get-go. Short notice opponent for Broderick, but not short notice fight because he's known he's been on this card and he's wanted to be on this card and his name has been on the list since the get-go. Unfortunately, he's been training for a silhouette, if you will, on a poster. So happy that he's got an opponent. Militia's got 3 or 4 guys on the card. I don't think it really matters when it comes to Militia who sold the tickets. They were sold for Militia MMA, and it doesn't matter if you sold them or your opponent sold them. Those people are there to cheer on Militia MMA. So I imagine this is going to just continue the pop that Karis and Jazzy open us up with. It's going to just continue with that Lawrenceburg crowd.
Yeah, I think so. And also just a little, intangible here. Militia MMA was probably one of the only spots for about a week that you could get tickets for this event. And so I was talking to Tom. I was like, man, we've had a lot of people coming through here buying tickets that aren't even really with the gym. But if I know Tom, he's probably coached these people up on who they need to be cheering for that night.
Yeah, it's probably part of the deal when you bought the ticket. Is like, I know you're really going to support this guy, but if you're going to buy the ticket from my gym, you also got to cheer for my guy. So yeah, I'm sure Tom cut some deals, man. All right, man. Our third bout of the night, a featherweight bout. This one I'm excited for. You're going to see Scotty Everhart out of that China Grove, North Carolina, Rowan Wrestling Academy. Those dudes are always tough and really don't care who it is you tell them they got to fight against. You just tell them there's a fight card somewhere and they're signing up for you. But Scotty Everhart will be seeing the return of Shiesty Sammy Shires. Boy, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is.
The Shiesty one, Sammy Shires, who usually fights at bantamweight, but Sammy's coming off his wrestling season at Cumberland University and went to nationals this year as a freshman. And Sammy was just like, man, I want to compete. Think the same thing happened with Sammy though that we were talking about with Metters though. Sammy's got a really good friend of his on the card as well, and I think as he sat back and saw really good friend Bryce Warner on the card, he decided he had to get some of this too. And so Sammy called up and said, if I can do featherweight and not really have to worry about a weight cut for the first time probably in 6 months, can I get a spot on this card? So this one's going to be fun. I have heard that the coaching staff from Cumberland University are going to be in the house.
Oh, nice.
They got a table, a second row table when those became available. And so high school coaches, college coaches are coming. But like I was saying earlier, Sammy better be ready because these Rowan guys, they come to play. They're not coming to lay down. They're coming to play. So this one should be a good one as well.
Yeah, I think so. Sammy, one of the top prospects, I think, in the our bantamweight amateur division at this point. And so certainly a tough hill to climb for Everhart here. Props to them for taking about that on paper anyway. Looks to be certainly stacked towards their opponent 2-0 versus 0-2. But looking at just some of the intangible, just some of the playing devil's advocate, if you will. Everhart, obviously more at home at 145, where he has fought all of his fights at this point. So we'll have a bit of a size advantage. Also, I feel like he likely is just training in the all-around MMA style a bit more frequently than Sammy. And now I'm sure in the off season, Sammy's probably ramped that up. But as far as just saying over the last, say, 6 months or so, I would imagine that Everhart probably has gotten a little bit more all-around training. And then last but not least, man, at the end of the day, Everhart took the fight. Like he knows what he's jumping into. He knows that the credentials that Sammy brings with the wrestling, and he still was more than happy to get in there and do it. So you got to give this guy props for having the chutzpah to get in there and test himself at the end of the day, as all these Rowan wrestling guys do. Obviously Sammy looking to go 3-0, a win here. We put him at 3-0. And, I guess we'll just have to see how the rest of the season stuff works out. But a guy that is starting to, climb the ranks a little bit, a guy that would be in the conversation at this point as we try to find an opponent for our champ, Earl McKinney.
Well, I will say, and just to touch on what you said again, when it comes to the Rowan guys, I think really their philosophy, if it's not a challenge, why do it? And I really think that's kind of how they look at it. But, again, that relationship between Shires and Warner, Warner is fighting for a belt in a group text the other day with Shires and his father, who's a really big part of his, journey. Was like, the comment was made, I got to get me one of those. And I said, well, you let us know when you, and so it's kind of been broached a little bit there. And, again, this is a 145 fight, but again, a win at 145. I think when fighters are moving up, you can't let them move up in a weight class and jump right into a title fight. But if you're just kind of moonlighting in a higher weight class and you get a win against a bigger guy in a higher weight class and come back to yours, that win is that win. And I think a 3-0 record right now in that bantamweight division. And we were kind of talking a little bit about, like you were saying, Tim, the timeline there. And he's like, well, if, this one goes, not count my chickens before they hatch, but if this one goes well, I know in July, you're supposed to go back to Chattanooga, and that's right before school starts. So if I get it in right before school starts, maybe something could work. I don't know. Again, he was pretty adamant, though, that, I'm not making plans for anything past the guy that's standing in front of me. But if things were to work out, it could definitely possibly get another one in before school gets back in.
Yeah, that's definitely definitely interesting. Like I said, the champ Earl McKinney has been asking, who's my defense going to be against, and up until this point, we really just haven't had a 135 a contender just bust out and emerge. For a while, I thought that it may be Brendan Sullivan that he ended up moving up to 145. So
Yeah.
and the champ now at 145 as well.
Yeah,
So
and I know I've been asked too, and I think it's definitely worth saying. Usually if someone hasn't defended a belt as long as it's been since Earl has won, they would not still be a champion. We would have already stripped it, pulled it. But you guys have to understand, he wants to fight. He's asking
right.
for a fight. It is not through any fault of his that he is not defending that belt. It's because of a lack of takers, a little bit of lack of options. But those options that we have had, nobody's really wanted, any of it right now. And then, like you said, with Brivin, I think we would have had a taker there had he not changed weight classes and dedicated himself to, putting on weight and muscle and going in a different weight class. So that is why Earl McKinney still has that belt, and that's why we will continue to wait on him because he
Yeah.
has asked every show to defend it. Next up, Tim, light heavyweight division. We've got Robbie Burns, Reed Regiment, out of Waverly, Tennessee. He will be meeting and taking on the Preach, Austin Higdon, out of Gogi Combatives, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Preach has not fought in a while, and he is ready to go. But Robbie is a tall, long drink of water, military guy, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, Tim. Stays real quiet when he's not fighting. Hell, stays quiet when he is fighting because he's got a very important job in the military. A lot of focus goes into that. But when he signs his name, he shows up and he fights, man. So I am excited. Robbie Burns and Austin Higdon.
This is a sleeper. This is one where, I mean, for one, these are two of the nicest guys that you're going to come
Mhm.
across. I mean, these guys they're both sweethearts, but they both like to put on a show. They both like to throw down. Higdon cut his teeth on that Alabama scene, so this would be the first time competing up here in Tennessee. I believe. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. Obviously, close with Trevor Peak, and has just recently, I believe, joined up with those Agogi cats. So I imagine his game has improved in the time off for certain. And both these guys are going to be hungry. They're both at 1-2, getting that win, get you back to that 500 mark, which is going to be, I think a good step for both of them. Burns, like you mentioned, very long, rangy, tall, young buck, active military. It's funny because Robbie and I will touch base about every 2 or 3 months. He'll touch base with me and be like, "Hey man, what have you got coming up here in about 6 months? I'm going to be ready to do it." I'm always like, "Man, like that's a long time from now." There's so like everybody's gonna have fought like in between then. Anybody that we talk about matching with would probably already fight. It's like, but no, when you're ready, we got something for you, I'm sure. So always excited to have him. He stepped in there tough, man. He fought on some other shows. He fought Zane Burton last time he was with us. Before that, he fought on some other events in Middle Tennessee. He beat this guy that was like 7 feet tall in his debut, a guy that was actually taller than him. So he's been in there with some pretty tough competition. Both of these guys have. And I think this is one that will be. I don't think we're going to a decision. I'll say that we'll get a finish either way, and I think it'll be a crowd pleaser. I see the crowd getting pretty lit for this one.
Yeah, I do too as well. It seems like there's a big buzz about. I've always been social media friends with Austin Higdon. Didn't even really know who it was when I accepted the friend request so long ago, even before this fight. So I feel like I've known him from a distance, but I noticed quickly that a guy who I thought was just a fan of the sport, and just someone that's around it, it took me, I was like, oh shit, he fights. The buzz around him, quote unquote, coming back has been so big online. And he is one of those names that my little fighter ticks notification, when it dings, I'd say there's about a good 40 to 50% chance that it's going to say Austin Higdon on it, uh, because he's doing really well and the support is huge. If you did not see the interview with Kyle Mays, that's one of it. I like them all, but that is one of my favorite ones. He actually did his interview in the church, I believe, on a Sunday
Mm.
afternoon after preaching. Really good guy. But like you said, Robbie Burns, sweetheart of a guy as well. So it's going to be odd, just two just really nice guys. Usually somebody's a prick,
Yeah.
but we don't have one in this fight. So you can guarantee there's going to be a lot of also respect going on in this matchup as well. Let's see. We are now down to number five, our fifth bout of the evening. It's in the lightweight division, 155 pounds. You are going to see Rowan wrestling again, China Grove, North Carolina. Noah Lewin coming in. This is actually Noah's debut, and he will be meeting another debut in Militia MMA's Landon Reed.
Yeah, two wrestlers going at it here. Both debuts. I expect both of them to still be, rely on their wrestling more than anything. We have seen Lewin in tag team action. If you recall the one time we did the tag team combat BJJ, he
Ooh,
teamed up with
yeah,
Corey Henson against an Agogi tag team. It was it was Logan Neal and yeah, I can't remember who Logan was with, but oh no, it was man. Linden. I think it
Linden,
was
yeah,
Linden. Yeah.
Nathan, yeah,
Man, they slapped the shit out of each other.
yes, they
So
did.
if anything, Lewin he's been in there, for that, and which may be a bit of a check mark on the advantage side for him. He's made that walk. He's been in there for an extended amount of time. Obviously, comes with a wrestling background. He's tall, lean guy. Nearly 6 feet tall, and representing Rowan Wrestling Academy, as you mentioned. Landon Reed, also a wrestler, and in his debut representing Militia MMA and a UTC wrestler. So another wrestler by heart. Wrestled there at the University of Tennessee Chattanooga, along with his teammate Josh Mackey, who we'll talk about here shortly. But for two debuts, these guys are going to be salty debuts, I have a feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Landon Reed, you were explaining to me, when you put him on the card, kind of those credentials. And I think this is another one. We don't know how many tickets Landon Reed had. The gym militia pretty much just got him in one big bulk. But I'm going to imagine being a UTC wrestler right there in Chattanooga, he's going to have his fair share of those tickets going out. But like you said, kind of like the Everhart and Shires, we've got Lewin and Reed. Rowan wrestling, a wrestling gym against these two wrestlers through and through, man. I'm going to bet that we're going to see a fireman's carry at some point. If someone doesn't pull off a fireman's carry, I'm going to be upset. But man, the chops that Landon Reed supposedly has in this wrestling game, I'm excited to see them on display. But again, just like we said with Everhart, these Rowan guys are here to fight. They don't make this drive to roll over for anybody. So I imagine this is going to be a highly contested fight. What is different between this fight and that last one we talked about is Sammy Shires has been in twice,
Mm.
so he does know what it feels like to be in an MMA fight. And we've seen pedigreed wrestlers before get in the cage and they weren't ready to get punched in the face. I think they just they were so focused on their craft and their skill, they forgot about that part. So it's not always a foregone conclusion that these high level wrestlers really care to get punched in the face. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the little bit of the unknown in this fight. So again, we're going to say it several times in this show. Another and highly anticipated bout on this card.
Yeah, I think that another thing that I failed to mention is a little tidbit for future breakdowns, I suppose, is when I was down in Chattanooga, we were visiting the venue, doing some street teaming, stopped in a militia. And one little tidbit I've gleaned from Tom Galicchio is before he'll let anybody do MMA, you have to have attained a blue belt, won a grappling tournament at blue belt level, and won at the very least a smoker kickboxing bout. So anybody that
Okay.
you see come in there will have at least met those credentials for Tom to let them fight. So
Okay.
that's something that maybe even though a guy hasn't competed, he has at the very least met that. So
Yeah.
just something moving forward.
Okay, and that's good for me to know, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually, I mean, a good piece of information there. So, like you said, not just straight off the street, not just straight off the wrestling mats.
Mm-hmm.
He's been put into some fight simulated situations in the gym before he's even allowed to get this far.
Absolutely.
Um, all right, next bout of the evening, bout six. You know what? We haven't been doing it, but I'll go ahead and do it. This one was sponsored by Proper 12 Irish Whiskey.
Okay.
It's in the light heavyweight division. Again, 3 3-minute rounds. This is MMA, amateur MMA from DC Combat out of Murphy, North Carolina. Okay, his name is Mike White. All right. His nickname is White Dynamite. And so I've been playing around with this one. I don't know if he's thought about the placement. He had
Mm,
it Isaac White Dynamite White, and I think that's too close together.
yeah.
I particularly prefer Isaac White Dynamite. Just use the white for both.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
okay, I got you. Oh, like a dynamite comes at the end.
yes,
Oh,
Dynamite comes
yeah,
at
that's
the
rare. You don't
end.
hear that. You don't see that much, but
Exactly.
I get it. But
I
it's not so repetitive either.
Yeah, Isaac White Dynamite.
Uh huh.
It's different. I put it in the beginning though. I separated it a little more. So we've got White Dynamite, Isaac White, going against Luke Wilson. Luke Wilson, who you will know, he is 1-0 in amateur MMA, but you probably know him best as the man in the stripes, if you will, the referee for most of our, if not every event, except for the ones he's fought on now. Our referee at Aries Fight Series, who works just about every show for us. But again, Luke has put a lot of time since that first debut. Went back in the cage as the third man, but you see a card this big and with all your teammates on it and coming back to town, it's hard not to want to be a part of it. And I think he had this one penciled in real early with you, Tim, when he just looking at the schedule, because we put it out, at the beginning of the year, that he knew that this was one that he wanted to be on. And then when he realized really probably three-quarters of his fighters in the gym were on the card, it was a no-brainer for him.
Yeah, Luke was one of the very first guys that was penciled in on this card. Even the winner, more or less, when we announced the schedule for this year. Luke reached out and let me know. This is definitely the one he was targeting to be on. So excited to see him back in action. He got the win in his first fight, his debut, as it were, with a submission in the first round. And now that fight was at heavyweight technically. So this will be a 205. Luke didn't cut any weight for the heavyweight fight, so he would typically be 205 or maybe even 185. So obviously tall, long guy, great grappling coming out of Gogi there. Of course, you've got Isaac White. We don't know much about. He's out of DC Combat there in Murphy, North Carolina. Trains with Dustin Garrett and Dan Garrett, guys that we are familiar with. So if he's of that mold, then I'm assuming he's going to want to grapple too. So it's really, I don't know what we're going to get here. I would imagine both guys' bread and butter will be the grappling. The intangible may just be the striking, which neither guy is noted for their striking, but that may be the difference maker in this one.
Yeah, not a lot known about Isaac White on our end. I will say again, kind of a surprise, and it just shows you what this card is doing. Isaac White, from North Carolina, like you said, out there with the DC guys, checking now, over 20 tickets sold for Isaac White
Wow, he's a
on
popular
Fighter
guy.
Tickets. So yeah, so again, everyone is coming to this card. So Isaac's going to have a little support there, a pop, if you will, when he comes
Mm-hmm.
out. But he's got to be feeling the nerves a little bit coming into it's your debut, but also coming into your opponent's hometown. Luke's going to have good support there, kind of like we talked about with the militia guys, those Agogi guys. It doesn't matter who sold the ticket when the announcer says fighting out of Agogi combatives. Everybody that's there supporting anyone from Agogi is going to be cheering, so he's going to have the crowd on his side. But I'm interested in this one because Luke, like you said, Luke won his first fight, his debut, but you could kind of see those. I wouldn't say nerves, and Luke's not a person that I think gets nervous, but just those first fight jitters, just kind of uh, that adrenaline rush. That one ended with a standing guillotine, which was
Mm-hmm.
really deep. So I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if I see Luke more kind of settle down in this one. Not necessarily do that. The bull rush towards them. I think he's going to kind of settle down a little bit in this one and kind of feel things out a little bit and pick a spot, if you will, a little more than he did the first one. So again, uh, Luke's family is a big part of our show, to tell you the truth. His wife works our front desk, his son's a cameraman, his daughter, but I'm imagining they're all going to be stepping away from their duty. So I think we're going to have some substitute workers for at least one fight on this show while everyone steps away to watch Luke Wilson fight. But I'm excited about it again. We got a debut, and it's always fun learning about these debut guys and what they bring to the table. So that way, Tim, you know how to match them in the future. So again, your sixth bout of the evening, Isaac White and Luke Wilson.
And I got to say, it's important, it's important to us when we have someone like Luke compete. As you mentioned, he's an official for lots of our events. His family works on the event, so it's important to us to be able to have a very inarguable, impartial referee on those type events. And not saying that any of the other referees would be impartial, but it's just important to make damn sure, essentially, that no one could mistake that there's any improprieties going on. So in this case, you booked a
Yeah,
referee from California who has got
yeah.
no idea who either one of these fools are.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely you're absolutely right and 100%. We don't obviously at a fight show you don't grab the mic to say these things. So this is a good opportunity to say that for anybody that's watching. Luke Wilson is a referee of ours, and because of such, he works alongside with a lot of referees that also work for us. On shows, he's not always the only referee, and with a large contingency of Agogi fighters, on this bout. And Luke being a referee who also trains at Agogi, it's no secret he's going to come out, with the announcer saying from Agogi combatives. So when those things happen and we see cards like this shaping up, it is 100% important to us, especially when you have out of town fighters, things like that. We trust our employees. We trust the officials that Gamma and the state, help us with and provide. But you never want anything to look bad for the opponent, for the opponent's coaches. You don't want anything to be in question, just like we did in Amped by bringing in Keith Peterson, for high profile fights and fights that we just need a neutral, unbiased referee in there. Not that any of them are biased, but unquestionably unbiased referee to step in. So we've got Jonathan Romero, who came actually recommended by Mike Beltran. Mike Beltran actually is the one that booked, Jonathan, for me. And Jonathan's out of California. He is Bellator's guy when they're in California. And so we're excited that Jonathan's going to come in and help oversee some of these fights. Definitely a good tidbit there, Tim.
yeah, no doubt, excited for that one, and that kind of takes us into this next flight of fights. Our latter section of the amateur card. Real, just a quick shout out before we move on into that. Just some housekeeping again. You get your tickets right now for this event at fightertix.com. Now, Jeff, there's talk of online sales ending early. So
Yeah.
if we're gonna get your online tickets and give your fighter credit, when is the deadline for that?
I'm not 100% sure. I will say, we are watching them closely. And the reason why we're watching them is, again, we've sold out once and we saw the impact that had. Um, and and the God's honest truth is we don't want to turn people away at the door. So, we're taking a look at the online sales, and there is a good possibility here soon we will cut those off so that we can guarantee that those tickets that are left will be available at the door for all to have a shot at. Now, what that means for you guys is, yeah, you can't arrive late. If you want to, try to guarantee yourself one of those tickets at the door, you're going to have to get there and stand in line and get it early. But yes, as opposed to having to put up a sold out sign and people make the drive, go, park in the parking garage, walk in the building, and then just find out they can't, is we are looking at, and Tim, we'll let everybody know as soon as that decision has been made, or kind of when we get to that number, that we want to set those tickets aside and make them available at the door. That being said, like Tim said, go to fightertix.com if you're listening to this right now, and get your tickets as soon as you can before we do that.
All right, let's move on to this second portion of the
Yes.
amateur card.
Yeah, you're really getting into the meat and potatoes now. You got bigger records and bigger prizes on the line, if you will. Our next bout of the evening will be in the welterweight division. You've got from Striker Fight Center out of Kennesaw, Georgia, El Monstro, Xavier Horton, that little pack of dynamite thickness here, going up against guy we haven't seen in a long time with a undefeated 4-0 record out of Gogi Combative, the Peruvian Hammer, Richard Guerrero.
This is going to be dynamite, I think. I don't know about white dynamite, but it's going to be dynamite at the very least. Start, I guess, with Xavier Horton. I believe this will be his first fight out of Striker Fight Center. So training there, with Frank, Jason Wolf, and the gang. Of course, several other great fighters there at Striker Fight Center. So I think is his first fight with them. He comes, he's a 3-3 guy. His record is not doesn't jump off the page, but he's a guy that has jumped in there with some really really tough competition. First time he fought with us, he fought at 185 actually. Against Jacob Adams, a guy who I've said it a couple of times, my opinion, probably the best amateur in Knoxville at this point, and came up on the short end of that, and then he wrecked a couple guys. I mean, just beat the fuck out of a couple straight guys in a row, and then he got very hard to match, like because I guess I don't know if it's like his record isn't that great, but you can just see that he is not going to be an easy out. I mean, he is very compact, very athletic, strong, and mainly explosive. I mean, just very, very damaging ground and pound, takedowns, wrestling background. It's there. Coming off a loss now, last time out for the NFC title, he stepped into a fight that, even say Xavier's hard to match, against Ron Humphrey, who, my opinion, is probably, I think, feel pretty confident to say he's probably the best amateur 170 in the Southeast. I don't think there's any amateur 170s that I could think of that would be near him. He's an absolute phenom. So he's coming off a loss there. But that said, he's been in there with just a very very high level of talent. And he's going to be jumping in there with another high talent here with Richard Guerrero out of Agogi. Combatives, of course, 4-0, coming off of a win over the previously undefeated Dustin Bailey, which was a fight that I think surprised a lot of people. A fight where Bailey had a very large amount of success in the first round, and kind of Richard just showed that grit in that fight. He wasn't going to go away, and Bailey started to wane a little bit there in the second round, and Richard just kept coming on. And so, very good grappler. A good BJJ guy is Richard, but he's just also got that Latin fight in him. He's very much a fighter, and a hell of a nice guy too. Richard, one of the more well spoken guys you're gonna come across. Great promo, but he's jumping back in there deep after a fair amount of time off here. It was with Xavier Horton, a guy that is, like I mentioned, is just so athletic, so explosive. You're going to have to beat him. You're going to have to out technique him.
Yeah. And that Bailey fight, obviously we got to mention that fight was a lightweight fight, is what it was scheduled at. Richard did come in heavy, but that I'm only saying that, to kind of go into what you were saying is Richard is a very successful person outside of the cage with his career and things like that. And I think Richard just realized, 170 is probably where I need to be at. I'm a very busy guy. He does listen. Don't get it wrong though. He trains
Yeah.
hard. But as far as being able to really, do his 9 to 5, do the things that he does, be able to train and concentrate on training and not have to concentrate on the career, the training, and the weight cut all at the same time. He's just felt that, 170 is just kind of where I'm comfortable with in my life right now. And so without having to think about necessarily that big weight cut, you've got to think that he's been able to stay more focused on his game plan and the fight in front of him with Xavier Horton. So I'm excited to see, like you said, this will be the first fight since that Dustin Bailey, but him coming in scheduled at 170 and being able to train as a 170 guy and maybe be able to hit those weights, get a little bigger, get a little stronger. You talked about Xavier Horton again, just a little baby Torres as far as his build, his explosiveness. He wants to grab that single and hoist you up in the air and drop you down. Richard is a very skilled fighter, but the dangerous thing about Richard too, though, is he's a skilled fighter, but he's also durable.
Yes.
So even if when you do get him in bad spots and you do get him in bad predicaments, he's not going to lay down. He's not going to just wane and weather, in the storm. Like you said, he's got that old, when you watch boxing and that old cliche about Mexican boxers, he is that tough and he's so durable and he's hard to get out of there. So that you could have, I see this as kind of that, what is it, the force and the immovable object kind of thing here going. And this is a hell of a way. I don't know if we're going to get an intermission with all these fights, but if we do, this is going to be a hell of a way to come back from intermission and get the crowd sucked back into what's going on, is this fight right here.
Yeah, man. I mean, you think about it, we're leading off like I guess what you would consider our main card of amateurs with this. I mean, I, that's a fucking hell. That's a hell of a fight to come back to start your I guess called your main card with, man. It only gets better from here.
Yeah, all the rest of them. And we'll just go ahead and roll right into the next one. Your next fight of the night in the light heavyweight division, sponsored by Tennessee Army National Guard. You are going to see 2-0, so undefeated early on in his career from Nashville MMA. Finn Martin, Big Finn Martin, taking on local Josh Mackey from Militia MMA. We talked about Mackey a little bit earlier when we were talking about his teammates and training partners. But this one, Mackey brings a nice little crowd. Finn, relatively quiet guy, a military guy,
Mm-hmm.
not huge on social media, but those ticket sales I've noticed are starting to pick up a little bit. And at 2-0, this is his step up. Mackey may have a loss on his record, but what a loss was that, man? That was his opponent in that
Malik
fight.
Jackson,
Yes,
yeah.
Malik Jackson. The last time he fought in Chattanooga, that was a big time fight for him. So both with 2 wins. Mackey with just the slight edge and experience in that loss to Jackson, but he's also that means he's been in the fire. He's felt that part of a fight. Finn Martin has completely dominated in his first 2 wins. Was never on defense, really no adversity. Josh Mackey has seen adversity and he's come up short and he knows what that feels like. So you've got kind of that yin and yang right now. Which one's going to prevail? Is that experience in the loss going to be what separates Josh Mackey, or will just that, raw heaviness and strength of Finn Martin and just that undefeated record carry him through to another one?
Man, this is one that I think it will certainly have some implications on that 205 division moving forward. Finn Martin and Mackey both have competed um, as high as heavyweight. Not necessarily always for Finn by choice. 205 is, we've said on here many times. 205 is it's one of the more shallow divisions, and it's there's not much in between. Like you're either really freaking good at the top of 205 or you're a little bit schlubby down at the bottom of 205. So he's had to fight up in weight. At heavyweight. And Josh Mackey, of course, fought his first couple fights at heavyweight. Was always a small heavyweight, but both these guys, good grapplers. Finn is a hoss. I mean, he's a very physically imposing guy, and I think he broke it down spot on when you say he's dominated both of his first 2 guys, which neither guy really could mount any offense against him. He's just very dominant. This will be his first step up against someone that does have experience, does have wins under their belt, will be game, will be coached up. I think the big question here is like, has the loss for Mackey really like leveled him up? Which you see that oftentimes, that first loss afterward, guys really bear down, and it's been a while now. It's been several months, and so from all I've gathered from his coach Tom Galicchio, he has stayed steady training. He's definitely we've toyed around with fights for him ever since, and so he has not taken a break, and he's definitely taken I think that loss to heart and sees where he needs to improve. These guys when you see the pictures, it's going to look like a big mismatch, to tell you the truth. Mackey is not a physically imposing guy. He's not a guy that you would think. He's very nice. He's very witty. He's funny as shit, really. But not the guy that you would look at and think that he is this the top level fighter. But man, he's got the wrestling to back it up. Man, Mackey is wrestled also at the University of Tennessee. He's wrestled at a high level collegiately. He can wrestle. And one thing that I recall is like in all 3 of Mackey's fights, even the 2 that he won, he had some rough moments in those, like moments where he was able to come back and win. So he's been in bad spots in every single one of his fights, and 2 of the 3 he managed to overcome and come back and win, which I feel like goes a long way to a fighter's mentality when you've overcome bad spots and come back to win. It's possible to do it. So they're gonna give you fight all the way to the end for you. So man, this is one that I mean, another one that's just really,
Yeah.
really anticipated. I think that whoever wins the 205 champ right now, Wallace McCoy, probably should be watching this.
Yeah, it's funny on this one, Tim, how you've got, when we started setting this fight up, you talked about all the similarities between the two, but there's also so many differences between
Mm-hmm.
the two. Finn Martin, and don't people listen and take this the wrong way when I say he's very Brock Lesnar s as far as he's just really put together. He's big. He's the fighter that will hit you once and it's like a truck. He's got big hands. Josh Mackey is that smaller heavyweight who might not hit you once and have the same impact as Finn Martin does if he hits you once, but Mackey he's got speed and he's fast. He'll hit you 5 times. You know, uh,
He's deceptively
yes,
athletic.
yes, he's deceptively
Mm-hmm.
athletic and fast, and so he is that higher volume guy where Finn is that one-time power guy. And it kind of reminds me of that second Frank Mir fight. Finn's the one that'll get your arm pinned and just give the big lunchbox, to the face. And Mackey's going to get, if he gets you in that position, he's hitting you 5 times
Yeah.
to get the job done. So uh, similar in their path, similar in where they've been, their story as far as having to fight heavyweight, not being able to find a lot of opponents at 205, but very different in the style they go about getting the win. So intriguing as hell. I can't wait to see this one. This was another one, though, Tim. I think this was the second fight we
Mm-hmm.
announced. It was the second fight booked, second fight announced. So both these gentlemen have known for a long time who they
Yeah.
were fighting, who their opponent was, and how. And the good thing is both of these guys have fought either all of their fights with us or actually all of them have fought all their
Yeah.
might be all of them. So they both had plenty of library to go back and watch on the other
Mm-hmm.
and really do their research, which again another wrinkle to this fight that makes it intriguing. All right, so before we get to the uh, amateur title fights, and we've got 3 of those that are about to come up, we saved this one in this spot for a reason. It is, if you will, kind of the amateur curtain call before we get into these 3 title fights,
Yeah.
and that is because both of these guys have sold so many freaking tickets. How in the world we should get our promoter's license pulled if we put this any earlier on the card? The amount of tickets these two, we if somebody puts this early on in the show, they don't know what the hell they're doing. Uh, Jeff Jankowski from Lawrenceburg Combat Club, who right now there's a lot of fighters that have paper tickets in their hand, but as of right now, Jeff Jankowski, you are in the lead on online ticket sales for that after weigh-ins night at Agogi Armory to put a bazooka on your shoulder or some AK-47s in your hand and fire off some rounds. Right now, Jeff Jankowski, you are in the lead as far as online ticket sales. We'll see how those papers come back. But Jeff Jankowski is meeting up with one of the Peak boys, Miles Peak, 1-1. Both these guys 1-1. Similar records, exact same records. Both guys, somebody's walking away in the plus side of that win loss column. Miles Peak, Agogi Combatives, Jeff Jankowski, Lawrenceburg Combat Club.
Yeah. I mean, it's astonishing. I mean, these guys have got very loyal fan bases, and both very nice guys. You can see why they're so popular. They're both just very cordial, uh, pleasant fellers, and they're built very similarly. They fight very similar. They're these guys are. Maybe not the most technical fight that you're ever going to see, but this one's going to deliver from an entertainment standpoint, no doubt. They're both very tough. They're both very heavy handed. They're both just kind of that country strong. And they're both going to have a hell of a following they're cheering them on with. So this is one that, I mean, this is going to, I feel like this is going to rival some of the pro bouts when it comes to just energy
Fan
in the building.
participation,
When it comes
yes.
to like just that energy in the building, the build up before they fight. I mean, that hair is going to be standing up on your arms. I feel like just like the main event potentially. So, just really excited. Both these guys, a pleasure to work with. Very easy going. Very very. They made the fight for me. They let me know they were fighting. So shit, man. Like can't ask for any better than that. So the winner will get above the 500 line here, get to 2-1, and regardless of who wins and loses, I think this is one that everybody's gonna have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, this is the one where okay. security, be on your toes. Not because they're going to get out of hand, but just that natural attraction to move towards the cage, I think is going to happen in this one
Uh,
between both these fan bases. But like you said, how much easier can you get? Both of them, they booked this fight together. They reached out to each other on social media. Hey, you want some? Yeah, I want some. Let's get it. Let's do it. Name the place. Call Tim Lloyd. See if find us a place to fight. And hell, how don't you wish like all of them were that easy,
I
Tim?
wish, and they
Uh,
matched it well. I mean,
yes,
it's actually like a really well matched fight.
yes. We may have to drop them a bonus for putting, usually when people match fights for, when they help you
Oh,
out
well,
with a
they've got
trade.
already got their opponent in mind. Usually,
Yes,
it's not something that we're too interested in. But
yes, but
yeah, in this case, no doubt they did a great job. It's hard to call either guy a heavy favorite.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and again, what a way to lead right into these title fights. Um, both these guys, like you said, very similar in their style, very similar in their methods of winning the fight. Just tough, durable guys, country strong, country tough, and both even on the kind of the same, journey, were bigger guys early on and have really worked hard to get themselves in
Mhm.
good shape and
Yeah,
keep dropping. Again, the fact that we're at 185 now for both these guys is such a huge victory for both of them. Jeff Jankowski, I did some, looking back through the
he's lost a
years.
lot of weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking back through the years on his Facebook, wow, what a journey that guy's been on. A weight loss journey and just a better lifestyle journey and Miles Pika's right there too.
Mhm.
So kudos to both these guys for just personally getting their health, in check, getting healthier, getting stronger, and getting down to 185. But
And dare
again,
I say, like, these two guys want it. I mean, neither guy do you have to worry about rolling over or if the
no,
going gets tough, even
no,
considering laying down. Like they both want it, and so like this is one where it's like it may not be like your two most high level athletes on the card, but this fight, I
it's
promise
an
you,
on your shield type fight.
mm,
It's definitely if I'm leaving out of here without my hand raised,
yeah,
it's on my shield. It is
mm,
that type of fight. So huge fight rolling into this next one and these next three. So the first of our amateur titles on the line. It's been a long time getting here on this one, Tim.
yeah,
We've got a vacant title here in the flyweight division. It was a title that was previously held by Vincent Van Alstine, who Vincent kind of, over the last few months, had some medical issues. No real medical scares. It was some
like
dental
wisdom
stuff.
teeth stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was some dental stuff going on that just unfortunately had some side effects that he wasn't able to shake, and so we weren't able really to lock in and pinpoint on a title defense. And we kept, putting off Bryce Warner as an opponent, and it just kind of got to that point where we all sat down. Bryce was ready to go. I think everybody involved felt it wasn't, fair to keep Bryce on ice to wait any longer. And so Vincent Van Alstine relinquished his belt, and since has gone pro.
yeah.
Had a fight this weekend as a professional, and that left that title vacant. And Bryce was there; he was waiting for it, so he stayed in his slot. And with a win at Aries 15, Maverick Cooper from Striker Fight Center in Kennesaw, Georgia, he fought Devin Emerson in Knoxville with the understanding that the winner of that fight would slide into this title bout. The only thing that was unsure was whether or not Maverick was going to be able to or ready to just go back to back between Aries 15 and 16. But I think the time off that we put in between those two cards, a little longer than normal, is what helped make that decision. Usually we run our shows kind of that first week of the month. But the fact that this Aries 16 was at the end of July and it gave him a few extra weeks really helped
Mhm.
give him that time off after a bout, that, take the week off and still have plenty of time to concentrate, focus, and get ready. So vacant amateur flyweight title, Maverick Cooper, and new nickname. I saw it on his questionnaire, the Raging Cajun, Bryce
Oh,
Warner. Yep.
okay. I didn't
We
know
got,
you're
we
Cajun
got
there.
nicknames. We got nicknames, man.
I
Bryce
like it. I
Warner,
like it.
Maverick Cooper.
Man, this is two young studs. I mean, both these guys are young bucks.
Both young, yes.
They're very young, and both exciting, very confident. Warner, a bit more experience at this point. Of course, he's gone the distance even in some of his fights. Has had an opportunity at the title once before against the former champion Vincent Van Alstyne in a fight that he was dominating up until he wasn't, and he got caught in an armbar. So has showed. I guess if there is a weakness, it's either maybe a bit of a grappling deficiency or a in-fight decision-making deficiency. So that's something that I think we did see some improvement on, though, in his fight with Hunter Anderson, that he rectified disqualification loss against before. So another testament to maybe it was a in-fight IQ deficiency, but I believe he's shoring that up from what we saw in the rematch, where he really did a great amount of damage to Hunter Anderson. Went all the rounds, but very, in my opinion, pretty dominant showing from Bryce Warner. Maverick Cooper has been I dare nothing but dominant at this point. Held the Aries knockout record for a moment until Austin Sauls beat it by a few seconds this last event. But man, we haven't seen him get stretched out. Just yet. He's been very dominant against the guys that he's faced. So this one's really interesting to me. Potentially 5 rounds. That is certainly an intangible that neither guy's gone 5 rounds yet, but Warner has gone 3. You look at Warner's maybe if there is, like I said, if there is a bit of a weakness, maybe it's in the grappling department, something like that. But Maverick Cooper, I believe, is going to want to strike. Striking's look really good coming out of Striker Fight Center. So man, it's hard to make a call on this one. I think in the striking department, Maverick probably a bit of an advantage. I think in the wrestling department, Bryce with the advantage. Not sure in the jiu-jitsu and grappling department like that, really, who has an advantage. So I think they're both going to come in shape. Both guys, I think, will be ready to go the rounds, but I think both guys are also wired to look for the finish.
Absolutely. And like I said, Maverick fought at Aries 15. Bryce has actually fought sooner than that to this card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, uh, even after Maverick fought at Aries 15, Bryce had a fight, I believe, maybe up in Illinois or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one went the distance as well. But the clips I saw from that fight, just like you said, Bryce has got a good wrestling background and a good wrestling base. He wrestled in high school with Sammy Shires. Even a lot of people in my area know who Bryce Warner is from his wrestling. Like you said, some of the decisions on the ground and maybe just getting a little too overzealous has got him caught into some submissions, like that Van Alstyne fight. But you saw it in that Hunter Anderson fight in the rematch, and I definitely saw it in this fight he had out of state a few weeks ago. He loves to stand and throw. He loves to get your back on the cage and stand and throw and tee off, and he will throw those combinations. So I think we already know Maverick Cooper likes to throw. Bryce, I think, just enjoys throwing hands. So I don't really see this going to the ground until one of them just definitively wants it to
Mm-hmm.
go to the ground. I think they're both going to oblige the other and just see who's striking's better, who's more pinpoint accurate, with their punches, who can throw the longer combinations, who can weather a storm, who can cover up and block and weather a storm. If things start to go wrong, I think that's when you might see one of them revert to, a
The takedown.
a different skill set, whether that be, jujitsu or wrestling. But I think for the most part, this one is going to be contested, if not in the center of the cage, definitely someone backed up against the fence.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be a high pace, a high volume, high output fight. This one, even if we do go rounds, I don't see it being a boring fight in the least. This could be one of those fights that you get 3, 4, 5 rounds in, and you still don't know who's going to get it. So definitely, whoever gets this one will have earned that strap.
And I think in the fourth or fifth round, if we go that far, the volume will not lessen. I think the
Right.
volume in those later rounds will still be as high as it was in the first and second. You don't really see either guy ever just throw one punch. It's always a setup. It's always a combination. It's always a multi-punch combination. And so this one is going to be hell. They're 125ers, man. Just typically those are always high-paced fights, but they're usually just high-paced scrambles, kind of things like this. These guys like to throw and throw a lot. So, man, what a way to start off a stretch of 3 amateur title fights. Now, following the flyweights, the bantamweights, but not just any bantamweights, the bantamweight females, we have a rematch from a featherweight title fight that was held under the Aries banner that went to a split decision, 5 hard-fought rounds, split decision win uh, for Mary Rosenbeck, the featherweight champion. Well, this time they're stepping in at bantamweight, and her opponent is still Samantha, the Blue-Eyed Devil Buttery. These girls put on a damn show at the Cotton Eye Joe. 5 round war. Like I said, I announced that and doing a split decision. I was scared reading off those scorecards because you knew one fan base was going to be happy and the other probably was going to felt robbed. But oddly enough, neither, I don't think either would have felt robbed because they both knew it was
Super
such a
close. Yeah.
close, super close fight. They were both very respectful and they respect each other so much that when the opportunity arose, both of these girls on their own on the side had come to you, Tim, and talked about dropping to 135, really with not necessarily the intention that the other was going to be standing in their way as an opponent, but both of them with their bigger records and their experience, I think both of them realized if I went to 135, I was going to be in the title hunt just based on my experience and record. And wasn't really thinking that knowing that the other one was doing the same thing. So here we are now, both these experienced girls, Samantha at 4-1, Mary at 6-5, 11 amateur fights under her belt. Both wanted to go to 135, and so here they are before they go pro. And I think both have pro aspirations pretty soon on the horizon and wanted to test themselves. And who better to test themselves against than the other person that took them 5 rounds into a split decision?
Yeah, without a doubt, our two most experienced ladies that we've got, on the roster. This is one where you're right. Both ladies are looking to go pro. Uh, I would imagine probably this year, but both knew that they wanted to go pro at 135. They wanted to make sure they had that 135 weight cut under their belt as an amateur first before it really counted. And you know, I don't think either girl or lady was surprised by this rematch call. Honestly, I've had both of them be like, oh, like when working like fights in the in between, I'd be like, hey, I think I got somebody. Like, oh, is it Samantha again, or oh, is it Mary again? So they were already kind of like expecting it. So they're gonna both experience this weight cut for the first time to 135, and that is an intangible that neither of us can really extrapolate much on because we don't know what it's going to look like. Yeah, it could go swimmingly for both. It could go sideways for someone if it's not handled properly. Neither have been this low yet. So man, it is really kind of a crapshoot. This fight was it main evented. This main evented at the Cotton Eye Joe and delivered. And if that tells you how deep this card is, this fight's already main evented once and delivered in a main event. We very easily could have ran this back as a main event at the Joe, gotten away with it, I think. So it really was one of the best fights we've had, especially probably the best female fight we've had so far. Really, a roller coaster. Looking back on it, you remember Samantha had good success when she was going for takedowns and grappling. She was doing well, and then as the fight wore on, she kind of began to engage Mary in the fight that Mary wanted, and had some success there, but kind of went away from what was proven to be working for her. So it'd be interested to see if she goes right back to that, or she wants to prove that it's not like Samantha's a one-trick pony. She can grapple, she can strike. She's proud of the fact that she can do both. Mary, known more as a striker, but improving in the grappling since she's been going over to Militia with Tom Galicchio and company, to where now it's like maybe she gives up a takedown, but she's really hard to corral there. At the very least, she's doing better at getting up, and in the striking department, she's very solid. So and both these ladies very gritty, very tough. No one's going to roll over here. Both have been in deep water. And Mary's in a bit of a resurgence, if you will. I mean, Mary started it, man, I don't know, like 0-3 or 0-4. I mean, really, really badly upside down. So when you look at her record, 6-5 or what have you, it's still a little bit misleading because it's really kind of like 6-2, like over the last say year and a half. So Man, this one I'm stoked for it. I'm going to say it over and over here, but this one we're putting a strap on someone and probably not going to see him defend it before they go pro. But that's cool. It is still be potentially 5 awesome rounds.
Yeah. This one's just intriguing again because, like you said, you've got the fight within the fight. Neither has the advantage, like, hey, I've made this cut before. So both have that battle in front of them before they ever even step into the cage. Weigh-in day is going to be interesting, even in this fight for all of us watching on how easy of a cut was it? Did they both make it? Hell, did they both miss the mark? Who knows? I think it's just way up in the air on both of those, but both are very professional in the way they handle. They're not pros yet, but they're professional in the way they handle their career. And so that both of them are dialed into this weight cut right now. But I just see this a lot of mind games, a lot of mind fucks have to be going on in preparation on both sides. Mary won the fight, and typically you look at rematches, you have the person who won who goes, well, I already know how to beat her because I've already done it once. But now Mary's got to think to herself. Samantha lost that fight, so Samantha's maybe thinking to herself, okay, I lost that fight. What do I need to change? She beat me, so she's probably not going to change anything because it worked for her the last time. What do I need to change? Do I need
She
to?
only beat her on one
Yes,
card on one judge's score, one
exactly.
round. Yeah.
So Samantha could be saying, I'm going to grapple more. I'm going to take this one to the mat. Well, now Mary's got to think on her end, you know, is she going to try to take me to it? So now I've got to train more to get ready for what she might do to make adjustments to the reason why she lost last time. There's just so many different ways you could overthink, a rematch with an opponent. Usually, though, when you're doing that, you've got a pretty definitive winner, someone who's won 4 rounds to one, 5 rounds to nothing, But like you said, a split decision is one judge who saw one round differently than the others. That's the razor thin difference in that. So neither one can probably afford to veer too far away,
Right.
but you definitely don't want to overthink it and get so far out of what got you that close to almost getting a decision or getting a decision that you throw yourself out of your game. So much has to be going on mentally between these two girls right now, between the weight cut and between just that game planning between the two that this one just seems so big. Like you said, it's not even the final amateur fight on the card. It's definitely not the main event with this stacked pro side, but this is a big fight for these two girls. It is the main event in their eyes for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and there's been a lot of fights, in April and in various, regions around through here. This fight would headline any of these cards. This is you're about to get essentially like 6 main events.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will go ahead and jump right into our amateur main event, if you will. It is the last amateur fight on the card. It's the last fight that we're going to preview tonight on this amateur preview show. This will be not a vacant title. This will actually be a title defense, which it
Second
seems,
defense.
yeah, which it seems lately we don't get to say title defense too often because guys are winning them right before they go pro or make that decision to go pro. But yes, his second defense of his title, Agogi's champion Josh Booker at 4-0 undefeated will be putting his amateur middleweight title on the line against Nashville MMA's Andrew Stewart, also undefeated, not as much cage time at 2-0, nonetheless undefeated against top level competition. Both these guys have fought tough
Mm-hmm.
en route to this fight and in their undefeated records. Both have a similar opponent in Miles Dillahunty from Georgia. So both have that similarity in their records. Both walked away with wins, both walked away in different fashions, but both have a similar opponent. This one is here for a reason. This one is going to be nasty. And I just mean nasty in a way. It is going to be hard hitting. It is going to be grueling. Josh Booker seems to always be in grueling fights. And I don't think this one is going to be any different because both these guys, big in stature, both in shape. Both are going to be heavy on the other. They're going to try to impose their will, and it's going to wear on them both. This is going to be as old JR would say, a fucking slobber knocker.
Last fight we're breaking down here today, folks, and like you said, it's here for a reason. Our amateur main event, second defense for Josh Booker. We've not been fortunate enough to have anyone else defend their title twice, so shout out to him. He has, as you mentioned, he's been in there tough, man. He's been in there with Aaron Terrell, Antoine Brown. These are guys that come from top level teams. 5 rounds with both of those guys. So that, if you were to say, hey, I'm looking at advantages for both sides. The fact that Booker has gone these 5 rounds 2 times already says a lot. That not a lot of amateurs have gone 5 rounds 2 times, especially. Booker, with wrestling background, state placer out of high school. And he's a guy that he's going to rely on his grappling. He winds up getting in some firefights sometimes, probably against his coach's wishes, if I had to guess. But he's one of these guys that likes to fight. About every fight, you'll see a moment where it seems like Booker's hurt. Maybe he's on wobbly legs, maybe he's shaky, and then he like snaps out of it and comes back to his corner laughing and sometimes self-deprecation, and then still manages to find a way to win, man. So he has found himself in tough spots repeatedly. There's no doubt that he knows he can overcome those. Stewart, huge knockout win, very fast, vicious knockout win over Dillahunty, whereas it was a split decision win for Booker. So they both had wins. As far as the easier time of it, it was obviously Stewart who got him out of there a little bit quicker. So he's shown that knockout power, the knockout one-hitter quitter power, if you will. I think from an explosive standpoint, he's got the edge there, probably in the striking as well. We haven't seen enough of him yet to know exactly where the grappling's at as far as in competition goes. So that to me is going to be the intangible. Can he stop the takedowns of Booker? Booker tends to be like a front runner. The first round or two, he's able to get those big takedowns, some big slams, some dominant positions, near finishes, even against Terrell. I recall he has tended to fade, I believe, in the later portions of those 5-round fights. And again, these are amateurs fighting a 5-round fight, so we're certainly not hating on that. This is fucking tough, but it seems like the later portions of the fights, he's begun to wane a little bit. Now, from what we've seen of Stewart, I mean, he's looking to go in there and get it done and get out of there and be violent and get a knockout, get a big finish, obviously clock in, clock out, get that strap and go. Which is just very different than what we've seen out of Booker. Booker's looking to just drag it out and make it just a grueling a war of attrition. So that's the intangible to me. Can Booker get the early takedowns to kind of build a lead early like he typically does and kind of grind it on out? Does Stewart have the cardio and the grappling defense to bring the sort of pace we saw him bring in that big knockout? We haven't seen him go that deep yet. So it's great. I don't know what's going to happen. It's either going to be over fast, and Stewart's going to come out there. He's going to catch him, and Booker won't be able to recover. Or Stewart may demonstrate that he does have the gas tank to go out there and go a hard 5 rounds and win a decision, or he don't, and he drowns late. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And Stewart has gone the distance in a fight. Just unfortunately, he hasn't had any title fights to where he's gone, 5 rounds.
Right.
His debut went the distance. He won a unanimous decision at some local fights in Nashville. Unfortunately for everybody, it was for a promotion that there's no real footage out there. If you find footage, you found it because somebody recorded it on their
phone
phone.
or something, right?
Yeah. So there's not, unfortunately, that library for Booker to look at and see. There's not a lot you can tell from a 30-40 second fight. If you're going to game plan, you might be able to say, okay, I see where he won that, how the punch he threw to win that. You actually love to find 3-round or 5-round decisions when you're researching a guy, because it gives you so much footage to watch, but it's just not there. But I will say that his opponent, I believe his name was Elijah Hill, in that first fight. Since that lost to Andrew Stewart, not a bad guy, has went on to Island Fights and won 2 in a row since that. So I mean, good opponent. But like you said, Tim, there's just something about being conditioned for 5 rounds. And ultimately, a 5 round amateur fight, that's like these guys just jumping right into the pro ranks and
Mhm.
going the distance as a pro, without that nice pro paycheck at the end of it. And Booker has done that twice now. Booker has gone a pro decision pretty much, a non-title fight pro decision, and he's been there. He's been in the deep waters, and we just have not seen Andrew Stewart on a defensive end, and that is, I think, the the thing, the unknown here that we're just going to have to wait and see. Who knows? Maybe we don't fucking see it, and if we don't see it, it's because it went one way. But that, I think, that is the big question mark here. We know Booker knows how to win fights. We know he can go deep and just drag out some long fights and come away with the win. Um, we know Andrew Stewart has the one hitter quitter power, but that one thing we don't know is how does he go, in the later rounds? How does he look in the way? And not just that he won that fight with Elijah Miller. We don't know how he looked winning that decision. We just don't know because there's no footage here. So that is the one thing that makes this intriguing, is we just don't know. We might not know, but what I do know is this is going to be a fucking hell of a fight, and it is the reason why it is here.
Yeah, and a big crowd contingency again. We're gonna have a lot of people in the stands cheering for both guys. Stewart's got a big contingency coming from Nashville.
Yeah.
Booker being a part of Agogi, as we mentioned, is going to kind of just absorb all that.
Ever so slightly behind Jeff Jankowski.
Yeah,
Literally, I look right now, he is behind him by just 3 general admission tickets, is what is separating those two in their online sales. So hometown crowd absolutely will be there for Booker, and the crew from Nashville, obviously. And we were there at the Underground. They were fucking loud and boisterous there. So it is going to be a hell of a way to end an amateur show.
you might be confused if you're in the crowd. It's like, am I in Chattanooga? Am I in Nashville? Or
Yeah.
am I in Alabama? Because all three of those areas are going to be very well represented uh, at the Chattanooga Convention Center. Jeff, let's run down the pro card just real quick. We're not going to break it down.
Yeah.
We're going to tune back in Wednesday. We're going to post this Wednesday. We're going to be with our guy, Cody Safdick. We'll have some fight odds by then. Going to do all this, but even better with Cody, essentially, with the pro fight. So you got to have to tune back in. Run that down real quick, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely, because Cody does it better than we do.
Yeah, right.
But what you guys can look forward to hearing break down with Cody Safdick, Micah Sheffy debut against Carter Beekman, another debut. 2 pro debuts going head-to-head in a catchweight fight at 160 pounds. Featherweight division, we've got Josh Delgadillo, who we've seen many times as an amateur in some nice fights, nice high-level fights against, tough competition, making his pro debut, coming down with that Team Chaos crew to take on star boy Andrew Sturdivant. We saw Andrew in his pro debut pull off a nice win up in Knoxville, Tennessee. Well, he's coming back for a sophomore outing in his hometown at Sturdivant versus Delgadillo. Then we've got a featherweight bout. Corey Delaney, who we have definitely seen more times than most, but in the lightweight division, fighting honestly the toughest competition out there in the lightweight division, making the drop to featherweight for the first time in his pro career, taking on the undefeated 5-0 Razor Robbie Ring. Robbie Ring from Ring Combat Sports will be back at Aries Fight Series, and he's going to take on Corey Delaney. Then, in a bout that just got, I don't even know if the ink is dry on it, and I can't even believe it's on my sheet yet. It just happened so soon ago. But you have, in a special feature bout at 155 pounds, you've got PFL vet, and I believe the number 5 lightweight, not in a city or state, in Canada. Number 5 in Canada.
The country.
Yes, the whole country. But from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the Canadian badass Michael Dufort at 10-4, taking on the most polarizing guy we've seen in a while. 11-5 from West Side MMA in Little Rock, Arkansas. Not just a tough veteran, but a UFC veteran. He had so many fights in the UFC. The Violent Bob Ross, Luis Pena will be in Chattanooga. Do Fort versus Pena, 11-5 versus 10-4. Both these guys on the cusp. Do Fort looking, he's been at PFL. He's looking to go to the big stage. Luis Pena has been there, tasted it, knows what it takes to not just get there, but to stay there and compete there. He's trying to get back, and they are coming to Aries Fight Series this Saturday to see who wins and who gets one step closer to the big show. Your co-main event at 5-2 from Alabama, Treston Vines, tough as hell. Treston Vines is coming into Chattanooga, Tennessee, to fight really what is should be, if not considered, the OG of Chattanooga mixed martial arts. 5-0 undefeated. Also, tough. That was the undefeated season.
Mm-hmm.
All fighters were undefeated going into this tough season. Ian Stevens is back. He's been out for a while. Ian Stevens versus Treston Vines is your co-main event. And then your main event of the evening, also making his return after moonlighting out in other places. But he started with us, Tim. He started with you, Tim, for sure. Torres the Punisher Finney at 4-0 from Agogi Combatives. Another young man who is, and I did, young man. He looks like a seasoned vet who's been in the game a long time. He is a young man that's only been doing this a couple of years, but sitting at 4-0, knocking on the doorstep of something big, will be opening the door to Chattanooga, Tennessee, to Elevation Fight Team out of Colorado's the Peaceful Warrior, Caleb Crump. 5-3, 8-fight veteran, 5-3 from a gym that hosts a litany. Who all, Tim? I mean, the Gages, the Usman. I mean, they've all come through that gym, and he's training with all of them. A very confident Caleb Crump, something I don't think we've seen matching Torres Finney before. I think a lot of guys have come in and they've thought, I'm going to take my shot at Torres Finney. I might not win, but I'm going to give it, all I got, kind of opponent for Torres Finney. Caleb Crump thinks he can win this fight. He feels in his heart, I am coming to Chattanooga, Tennessee. He posted it up on his Instagram, Tim. I love taking guys' undefeated records, and I love submitting them. He is coming in here to silence the crowd, upset the apple cart, all the cliches. He's sending everybody home pissed, is his intent against the hometown guy, Torres Finney. What a fucking main event. What a co-main event. What a feature bout. What a pro card, my man.
Yeah, man. I mean, we can't say it any more clear, man. We're freaking stoked. We're a week out. Check back with us on Wednesday. We're gonna have a very more detailed breakdown of those pro fights with our guy Cody Safik. I'm really excited to get his take on a lot of these matchups because we have our opinions on how things may or may not go, but it's always fun to get a guy who's for more or less a professional handicapper in his take on these guys from Canada. I expect him to have
We're
some good
giving him a
insights on
Canadian.
Newport.
And we're giving him a Canadian.
Yeah, he's familiar with Newport too, and so that's going to be a good breakdown. I'm excited to hear his breakdown of both of these guys because obviously he's going to be familiar with the opinion as well. So check back in with us Wednesday. We're going to give these pro fights a full episode, so we'll be here for a whole another hour with you guys chopping up these pro fights. Make sure you get your tickets while you can at fightertickswithx.com. Subscribe to Spectation Sports. Get the pay-per-view. Check us out on social media. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscription bell. We're posting the fights from Aries 15 now all around us. Those are going to keep coming all through fight week. And Jeff, any parting words before we get out of here?
Nope. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get to. I told you earlier today to text. I'm actually ready to get to work. I'm ready to put out fires. I'm ready for just the hurricane that comes through. That is, fight weekend. I usually just enjoy the fights, and I don't like all the work going. I'm ready to get to work because if we get to work, that's the closer we
to
get.
That.
That's the closer we get to 6:00 Eastern time on Saturday, and that bell ring and the first fight gets underway.
Don't miss it, guys. For Jeff Hobbs, I'm Tim Lloyd. We're signing off. We'll see you guys Wednesday for another edition of The 0 Hour. Thanks a lot for watching.